Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I've learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And I have a special guest with me today, Pee-Pee the Flying Chihuahua. Hello, Pee-Pee. How are you? No, I actually have two special guests with me today. Pee-Pee and Alex, my husband, is here today. And the reason that Alex is in the video, he just got home and I was like, hey, do you want to be in a video? He's like, yeah, sure, what do you need from me? So, I have been doing my Dear Peter advice videos on my channel, and I've been getting so many emails recently about age gap relationships, which is really funny because I don't know that I've ever heard the definition or the lingo of an age gap relationship. It was never something that I had heard termed that way. Have you ever heard of that before? Like before we got together?
I don't think so.
I mean, I had heard May-December wedding, things like that, or, MILFs or DILFs and all that.
May-December wedding?
Yeah, that's when, somebody's older than the other person.
I've definitely not heard of that.
Okay, well, that's kind of an old school thing. There's one of the differences we're showing with our ages. But, I had heard that kind of stuff, or robbing the cradle, all that kind of stuff. My stepmother is 22 years younger than my dad, so when they got married, everybody was like, oh, he's robbing the cradle. But as far as age gap relationships, I had never heard of it before. And in fact, it wasn't until I started seeing other YouTubers talk about age gap relationships that I knew that that was kind of a term that people talk about. But recently, because I talk so much about our marriage and the ins and outs of it on my vlog channel, and he's been in a lot of my videos on my main channel and things like that, a lot of people are asking about it. And I'm 45, Alex is
21.
You wish. How old are you?
33.
He's 33, so there's a 12-year age difference. We met when he was 24, and I was 36. And I don't know, the differences for me were a lot, the spectrum was bigger then than it is now, I would say. But, the question that I get is, what are the difficulties that you have in your relationship as far as the age gap? What do you find, are the misunderstandings between you guys and those kinds of things as far as the age gap? Everything related to the age gap. Now, I'm going to let Alex talk about this because I've talked a lot about it on my vlog, but I haven't really encountered I don't know, a lot of difficulty with the age differences, if that makes sense. What do you think?
Personally, I don't think that I've experienced any difficulties or any form of judgment or anything. I also don't really pay attention to those kinds of things. If there are any form of, whatever it would be.
What do you think the differences were when we first got together? Did you think it was
from other people or between you and I?
Both.
From other people, like I said, I didn't really pay attention. Internally in our relationship, I think that it would probably just be kind of just acclimating to, I don't know. See, we just have so many different factors going into ours that they just kind of get muddy, right? So Peter will ask me about a certain song or a TV show or something, and I would be like, oh no, I've never seen it or whatever, and then it immediately can be oh, it's because there's an age difference, or it can also be because I was born in a different country. So for us, it just gets a little muddy, but that can be something
yeah, I think it's
cultural, cultural sayings and.
Yeah, I think it's really important that this is a hard conversation for us to have because. Well, first of all, it's important when Alex is sharing this for you guys to know that he doesn't really pay a lot of validation to other people's opinions of us as a couple or what they think about it. Whenever I'll say oh, this is what so-and-so said or whatever, he's like, I don't give a shit. Okay, that's what they think. And he doesn't think about that in terms of not just us as a couple, but derogatory words, things. I mean, they really mean very little to him. And so, what others think about him, he really does live to the beat of his own drum. That being said, when we got together, the differences are not just age-wise, they are cultural. He was born in Venezuela, I was born here. So a lot of the musical references, like Fleetwood Mac, or me talking about the TV show Love Boat or things, were also just cultural references, I think. Because he does know a lot of things that were of my time period that culturally were going on in Venezuela. His mom and I will talk about things and he'll be like, oh, I know about that because she talked to them about that, if that makes sense. Our mothers were very similar and educating us on things of the past just different cultures. So, and what's interesting is the things that he doesn't know about American culture, I don't know about Venezuelan culture. So we're constantly, I think, educating each other on that kind of stuff. But then, the differences are also like we're in different fields as far as careers, and, like he drinks, I don't drink, things like that. Those were like the differences that we saw when we first got together. I think that a lot of people wanted to, make it about, number one, that we were gay and it was a gay relationship, if they would see like, oh, you guys are different than everybody else. And number two, I think it was the cultural differences. But the age gap thing never really was the main thing. My aunt said something. This was funny. When we first got together, my aunt said, we went to dinner, and this was
just like your dad.
She said, you're just like your dad. She goes, you like him young, just like your dad. And I was like, Aunt Kathy, he's 24. And I really don't think, like, YORUS, the YouTubers, there's a 27-year age difference. There's a lot of YouTubers like Trisha Paytas and Jason Nash. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that have like a huge age gap. 12 years to me is not that big of a difference. Like,
I will say, though, that like, looking, at like, let's say like if I'm gonna go out, right? And I find myself going to a place where like people who are in their early 20s, I do notice their younger mindset. And I think that because I've always been attracted to someone who's older than me, if I were to be like looking at like starting over or something, which not even close, but I don't think that I would ever want to be with someone who's like even in their 20s, and I'm 33. So I think that like there's also like some type of like individual form of interest and attraction when it comes to someone being attracted to someone who's younger and vice versa, and not necessarily like an age thing, but it's just like how like the other person makes them feel. Like for me, like conversations with someone who's in their 20s are very like superficial and yada yada whatever, and they can develop and be like really deep, because I also have friends who are in their 20s. But I think like when it comes to in a romantic kind of like level and like how like someone completes you, like you do kind of have some kind of like chemical like attraction to someone at a certain like point or age. Of course, there's a conception to every rule and every scenario, but I think that if I were to ever be like single and looking, like I would just like look for someone younger. And I don't know if you would probably say the
say
same
it
thing.
a third time. Single and looking. Starting over.
I mean, the only way that I would be single and looking is if I'm a widow.
Yeah. And that's not happening. I will, the thing is interesting about that too, like when we got together, like 24, he was, just straight out of college at the time, and his two best friends were 21, and it did feel like a huge age difference. They felt like an age difference. Like when we were just the two of us together, it didn't, but when we would go out, like his friend Demi, our friend Demi, would always say to us, like, he would be like, Peter, when I'm 36, I hope I'm out dancing and stuff like you, and you're so much fun. And the other thing is the looks have changed. So I will show you our wedding picture. This is from 7 years ago. Oh my gosh, I need to dust her off. Anyway, this is from 7 years ago, and you can see in the picture, that's me in the back. I had brown hair and no beard, and that was actually when I started growing my beard out and my hair went white. And I think like at that time, I put on quite a few pounds since then too. I think
he lost some.
That he's lost some. And I think, and we have two of the cutest dogs in the entire world trying to get all of our attention right down here. I think like when my hair went white, people started noticing more of a physical difference between us. Like you really couldn't tell a whole lot of an age difference between us before that. But when the beard came in and the hair came in, then all of a sudden you like notice that. Here's my thumb like down my butt right now.
You don't.
Is that not you? Yes, that is you. I can feel your thumb right there. Anyway, but like we don't really notice, I don't think, like, getting any judgment for it. We've never received any judgment for it, have we?
No, which is really funny though, like, when we go to Miami, literally it's kind of like, if you're not dating someone who's older and you're in like your like early 20s or 30s, and like, what are you doing, right? And like when we would go to the beach or we would go to like a restaurant or whatever, like people would ask, if we were together or not, and like that was the first time that I ever like was like, oh, you guys are together or whatever. Which is funny because like you see girls walking around with like guys like who are like triple their age, if anything, like more frequent there. And then that was the first time that we kind of experienced that before. But
I will say that, like, that is one thing that kind of bothers me, is the stigma that, like, you know, you see, like, older women, well, you see older men with younger women, and that seems to be more acceptable now. But if you see an older woman with a younger man, people still see that as kind of strange. Yeah, and if you see an older man with a younger man, they see it as creepy. And it's like, why is one okay, but the other two are not okay? You know, and I don't know, like, I think... Now, I do know relationships where there is quite a huge age gap, and I sometimes sit there and I think to myself, what do they have in common? Like, we have a lot of things in common, you know, and our plans for the future and things like that are in common, and I think that's important to have a lot of the same goals, and we've talked about that a lot in our question and answers that we've done on my main channel. If you're interested, I'll link one of those, but we've done a lot of those, but I don't think the age difference, like, really ever causes us any problems. You know, I will say that, like talking about the future, I didn't mean to interrupt you, sorry. Like, I have a fear of, like, when I'm older and I'm 12 years older, I mean, when he's 60, I'll be 72. If I'm still here. If not, he'll be looking for somebody else. So put your resume in the comment section.
You'll be older.
And you'll be 60.
Probably not like that. I don't know. Well, but I was going to say, like, that we do have a lot of things in common. And then we also have a lot of things that are not, you know, and finding the balance of acceptance, it's where the challenge is and lies, right? So, like, you can be 28 and you can be with someone who is 45. And the problem doesn't really, like, become the age difference. It becomes about what you enjoy as a person and what they enjoy as a person. And then you just kind of finding a balance and being able to communicate and having that, like, subtle, like, form of kind of like give and take, because you could have 245 people being married and it could just be just as difficult as it is as like any age. So it's just really kind of working through that wavelength that you guys can be on and you know, whatever, and
communicating too about what the differences are. You know, like, okay, here's like one of the things that I was afraid of. Like, he loves, you know, electronic dance music and going to music festivals. I mean, he's like obsessed with it, right? And I really want him to enjoy that. And one of the things that we have learned as a couple is how to allow the other person to enjoy their own interests. And I don't always have to tag along, and he doesn't always have to tag along. Like, we can do our own things. But one of the things I was afraid of was that as I would get older, how the hell would I keep up with these music festivals? I thought, because we went to Ultra Music Festival in Miami, that was the very first one we went to. And I thought, there's no way when I'm 60, I'm going to be, and that's for me 15 years away. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to keep up and still go to these things. There's a lot of 60-year-olds that go to Ultra. There's a lot of 60-year-olds that go to Ultra. So I'm like, okay, I mean, we saw some 70-year-olds this year, I think, you know?
And I think it just becomes kind of like knowing what, like, your limitations on personally, you know, like, with that in mind, like, that same kind of concept, like, I like to go out and like to the music festivals, and Peter likes to do so also, but there are some that he's not really interested in, and then just being able to communicate, you know what, babe, like, this one's not for me, you go ahead and go have fun.
Yeah.
Right? And then just like having that communication and trust within each other to be able to like do your own things, so that like, it's like, hey babe, like, I have a great time, you know, how's the house? Or like, hey, are you having a good time? How's the festival? And it's just like really working through those limitations, and then like trust, you know, like, you know, that's really where it lies. You can be, you can just, you know.
And you can both be 25 and not trust each other. I always tell them, can you sit up next to me so my head doesn't look so big since I'm sitting forward? I think the other thing is like, family. I think family is harder than friends sometimes, you know? Like my aunt, who's since passed away. Like, I think it took her a little time to like, I know, he loved her so much. But I mean, I think like at first she was very protective of me, you know, and kind of like, okay, what's this about? And this younger guy, and all the people that I had dated at that point were like my same age. And all the people that you had dated were your same age as well too, right?
Yeah, but they were also like a little older.
We've got all the dogs up here now, Pee-Pee.
Like by a few years, but yeah, I mean.
And so then I remember like meeting.
They were also never really serious relationships, so like they never really got to be part of my family.
So when meeting his mom, it was very important to me that she wasn't like, who's this guy coming in here, and my son's so much younger, and what's his intentions? Because your mom...
Bills to pay. Just kidding.
His mom's like 10 years older than me, right? I love when people say that. They're like, oh, he's a gold digger. I'm like, but I don't have any gold, so.
Right.
So.
The mine is empty.
So anyway, but you know, like, it was important for me that, you know, she was a Catholic, devout Catholic from Venezuela. She's closer to my age than I am to him. And, you know, it was important for me that she knew that I wasn't this like horrible person coming in there and I had ill intentions. Like, it was important for me that she saw that my motives were pure and that I really just loved her son and I, you know, wanted to be part of the family. And she's accepted me as part of the family. I mean, I could not ask for a greater mother-in-law. She is so fantastic. And, you know, when I think about the fact that you hadn't come out that soon before you and I met, like with your mom, like, you were out going to bars and meeting people and stuff, but he has sown his seeds too. I do think that's important that if you're going to date somebody younger, make sure that they've sown their seeds, okay? He has sown his seeds. So,
I don't know what that means.
oh, that means you have experienced life.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Okay. But so, you know, I wanted to make sure that, like, you know, and so had I, so that was important, you know, but I wanted to make sure that his mom didn't think that, like, you know, I was this person that was coming in here and, you know, my motives weren't pure. And, you know, and today she and I have a fantastic relationship. But I think that you have to be, you know, honest with the family members and say, like, do you have issues with me being older and stuff like that? And, you know, and just having those conversations. I think people are a lot of times afraid to have conversations. Like, we've talked a lot in my videos on my main channel and on my vlog about being in marriage counseling. We are huge proponents of marriage counseling. Huge, 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 right? And what are you laughing at?
Because it's how huge we are.
Huge. Exactly. But no, we love marriage counseling, and it was Alex's idea, not mine. And we actually just came up on the 1-year anniversary of marriage counseling. And, you know, I think it's really, one of the things that we've learned is not to be afraid to have conversations. Like, let's have the conversation, you know, and let's get through whatever it is we're afraid, and people want to dance around subjects. So I think that that's important as well. And I guess maybe the lesson at the end of all of this is it really doesn't have so much to do with the age differences or the cultural differences or all that kind of stuff. It has to do with two people in love that are trying to, like, work things out together and, you know, have better communication, and how are you going to work through those differences? Everybody has differences in every relationship they're in. Look at Boo Radley. Welcome to our life. I have Pee-Pee and he has Boo and Tucker. So
Never under pups.
What?
Never ending pups.
Never ending pups. So anyway, I hope that answers some questions. I would never tell somebody, if both adults are of legal age, I would say, you know, have at the relationship you want to have. I think you have to be honest with yourself. We change a lot between 18 and 25. We really do. You know, you're not who you are at 25, 26 that you were at 18. I mean, for me to go and date somebody that was super young like that would just be ridiculous. I mean, what do I really have in common with somebody that age, you know? And I think as you get older, you have to take a look at that. He was right on the cusp of that when we started dating. Like, he was getting into his career, professional, things like that. But there was still a part of him that, like, wanted to, like, go out and whatever. And I wasn't so old that I was, like, settled in my ways and, you know, had a house and was doing landscaping every weekend. Like, that wasn't my life. So we were kind of, our lives kind of overlapped, don't you think?
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, like, I don't think that we try to change each other, but I think, like, we did.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
At some point. But then, like, we just kind of accepted each other. And then we just naturally, like, were able to become the person that we are. And, like, I mean, even if you're looking at yourself, like, even if you're, like, a 16-year-old person watching this video and you're in high school, like, you're not the same person that you were when you were, like, you know, a year ago.
Yeah.
Or in the year before. And if you're, like, in your 20s, like, same thing. Like, you're not the same person that you were when you were 21 and if you're 25 today. And if you're 35, you're not the same person you were when you were 30. You know, like, it's completely different. So, like, you know, if you're going to be dating someone who's younger or older than you, like,
you have to change together.
You change together and you allow them to change on their own. And just, like, acceptance is just sexier than trying to change somebody else.
I like that. Acceptance is sexier than changing somebody else.
Yeah.
All right. So, well, thank you for being in the video.
You're very welcome.
I wanted to surprise him because you've never been in a Peterisms video before. And this is the longest Peterisms video I've ever done. 18 minutes in. Oh, my God. So, anyway, if you liked Alex being in here and you want to hear more relationship videos, let me know. And put it in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.